My hands were still wet when I sent the voicemail. I didn't even think. I just hit record, and the words came out of me like a scream I'd been holding for years. My daughter just collapsed. She's not breathing. Then, silence. The sound of my own heartbeat filled the kitchen as the message sent to the Bennett family group chat. The one I hadn't spoken in for months. The phone buzzed twice, then stopped. No reply. I remember standing there, staring at the screen, water dripping from the faucet, my fingers shaking over the countertop. The house was too quiet, except for the distant hum of the baby monitor and the soft, mechanical wheeze of the breathing machine I kept by my daughter's bed. Minutes passed. No one called. Then finally, a message appeared. From my dad. Just 3 words. Call 911, Lila. I almost laughed, the kind of laugh that hurts more than crying. Because I already had. Because she was already breathing again, because I had saved her. And standing there, barefoot on the cold tile floor, I realized something that hit harder than the panic had. My father still didn't see me as someone who could handle life, even after I'd already fought to rebuild it without him. Voice softens. That night, as my daughter slept beside the oxygen tube, I looked at the phone again and whispered to myself, he hasn't changed at all. I was 23 the last time I stood in that kitchen, the same one my mother used to fill with the smell of apple pie and lavender candles. Only that night, it smelled like burnt coffee and disappointment. My father sat at the table, arms crossed, eyes cold. My mother lingered by the sink, pretending to dry a plate that was already dry. I had just told him I was pregnant. He didn't even let me finish. You're throwing your life away, Lila. His voice was low, sharp, controlled, the kind that made you feel like you'd already lost the argument before it began. I remember staring at the tiny gold cross around his neck, trying to find the warmth I used to believe lived somewhere inside him. But there was nothing. Just silence, judgment, and the faint buzz of the old refrigerator behind me. You're not married, he said. You don't even have a real job. How are you going to raise a child? My mother's eyes flickered toward me, full of tears she didn't dare let fall. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that love, real love, doesn't come with a paycheck or a wedding band. That the man I was with wasn't perfect, but he was kind. He saw me. But instead, my voice cracked, and all I said was, I'll figure it out. He laughed. Not cruelly worse. Dismissively. You'll come back here, crying in 6 months. Mark my words. I felt my hands shaking. My whole body wanted to run, but my heart, my stupid, loyal heart, wanted him to just say he believed in me. That's when Grandma June stepped in. She'd been sitting quietly in the corner, knitting something in her old rocking chair. She rose, walked to me, and pressed a small silver locket into my palm. You have my strength, honey, she whispered. You just haven't had to use it yet. That locket became the only thing I took with me when I packed my bags that night. No photos. No letters. Just that small piece of her and the faint smell of lavender that followed me out the door. Pause. Voice soft, breaking slightly. The next morning, my father didn't call. He didn't check where I'd gone. He just told my mother. She made her choice. And I did. I chose to breathe without them. The first few months on my own were quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. There's a difference. I rented a single room above a laundromat in Denver. The walls were thin, the heater barely worked, and every night the hum of dryers downstairs became my lullaby. My morning started with burnt toast and the sound of sirens echoing down Colfax Avenue. I found work at a community clinic front desk, minimum wage, long hours. I wasn't a nurse yet. I wasn't anything yet. But it was something. It was mine. Some nights, when the city lights flickered through my blinds, I'd hold Grandma June's locket against my chest and whisper, I'll figure it out. There were days I wanted to quit, when my feet ached from 12 hours on the linoleum, when my coworkers whispered that I'd never make it through nursing school as a single mom. But every doubt just made me dig deeper. Then came her, Dr. Naomi Fields. She was the kind of woman who could silence a room without raising her voice. One afternoon, she found me crying in the supply closet after a 12-hour shift. "You're wasting your potential behind that desk," she said. I remember blinking at her, mascara smudged, holding a clipboard like a shield. "I don't have the money for school," I told her. She smiled, that kind of knowing smile women share when they've both been underestimated their whole lives. "Then we'll find a way." She helped me apply for a scholarship program, wrote me a recommendation letter that still makes me cry when I read it. The years that followed weren't easy. Long nights studying after putting my daughter to bed, babysitters who canceled last minute, hospital shifts that left me too tired to eat. But every exam I passed felt like a small rebellion. Every paycheck felt like proof. The day I got my RN license, I didn't call my father. I didn't post about it either. Instead, I walked to Grandma June's grave, the silver locket still warm for my skin, and whispered, "I used it, Grandma. I really did." From there, everything changed. The clinic promoted me. Then I moved into pediatric emergency care, the very thing I'd once feared most. Saving children who couldn't breathe, comforting mothers who thought they were losing everything. And somewhere along the way, people started calling me Nurse Bennett. I'd smile, but it always made me pause. Because no one here knew my past. They didn't know about the burned bridges, the silence between me and my father, or the family group chat that had turned into a graveyard of unread messages. Sometimes I'd scroll through it late at night, just to remind myself that I didn't need their validation anymore. I had my daughter, my purpose, and a life that was finally, quietly mine. Soft inhale, faint smile in her voice. Still, I never deleted that group chat, because some part of me still believed they'd reach out one day. The hospital hallway smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee, the kind that sits too long on the warmer. It was 2:17 a.m. when I saw him. My father. He looked smaller than I remembered, shoulders a little bent, gray hair catching in the fluorescent light. His flannel jacket was half-zipped, like he'd rushed out without thinking. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He didn't see me right away. He walked straight to the nurse's station, scanning faces until someone pointed toward the pediatric ward. That's where I stood, just outside room 412, my daughter sleeping peacefully inside. When his eyes finally met mine, I swear time slowed. It wasn't anger I felt. Not anymore. It was something softer, sadder. Like looking at a stranger who used to mean the world. "Lila," he breathed, almost a whisper. I came as soon as I heard. I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "She's okay now. It was a seizure. The doctors say she's stable." He blinked, relief flooding his face, but then confusion settled in. "The doctors?" I hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Well, technically, I am one of them." He frowned, not understanding, until he glanced through the window. Inside, the monitors were steady, and a small plaque on the wall read, "Head Nurse, Lila Bennett, RN, Pediatric Emergency Care." He froze. "You work here?" he asked quietly. "I run this unit," I said. "Every kid who comes through these doors, I make sure they leave breathing." Silence filled the hallway. Only the rhythmic beep of a monitor broke it. He looked at me, really looked, maybe for the first time in his life. "You did all this?" I nodded. "Without your help. Without anyone's." His throat moved like he wanted to speak, but the words didn't come. I led him inside. The room was softly lit. Warm, calm, safe. My daughter's hand rested on her stuffed bunny, her chest rising gently under the blanket. Beside her bed, I'd set a small framed photo. Grandma June holding baby Lila, both smiling under the summer sun. And next to it the silver locket? My father's eyes lingered on it. He whispered, "Your grandmother would have been proud." For a heartbeat, I saw the man I used to look up to. The one who carried me on his shoulders, who taught me how to ride a bike, who once said I could be anything. But then reality returned. "You know," I said softly, "when I sent that voicemail, I wasn't asking for advice. I was reaching out hoping someone, anyone, would just be there." He looked down. I didn't know what to say. "You could have just said, 'I'm on my way.'" Pause, her voice steadies. "But you didn't." He swallowed hard, guilt shadowing his face. "Lila, I'm sorry." I nodded slowly. I know. Then I smiled, small but real. But I didn't need saving, Dad. Not then. Not now. We stood there, the hum of machines between us. Outside, dawn began to creep through the blinds, pale light spilling across the floor. For the first time, he didn't fill the silence with his opinions or orders. He just looked at his granddaughter, then back at me, pride and regret tangled together in his eyes. Voice softens, almost a whisper. You became everything I was afraid you couldn't, he said. And for once, I let myself believe him. The sun had barely risen when we sat across from each other in the hospital cafeteria. Everything smelled like burnt coffee and scrambled eggs that had been sitting out too long. But I didn't care. For the first time in years, my father and I were talking, not fighting, not pretending, just talking. He looked older in the daylight. His hands trembled slightly as he held the paper cup between them. I didn't realize, he said quietly, how much I missed. I watched him, searching for the right words. You didn't just miss moments, Dad, I said. You missed me. He flinched a little, not from anger, but from truth. I thought I was protecting you, he murmured. I didn't want you to suffer. I let out a slow, tired laugh. But suffering was what made me strong. You tried to shield me from life, and when I chose it anyway, you walked away. Silence again, the kind that stretches and hurts. Then I leaned forward, voice softer but firm. If you really want to be part of my life, of her life, I said, nodding toward the hallway where my daughter slept, there have to be some rules. He blinked, confused but listening. No lectures. No guilt trips. No trying to fix everything. I don't need a savior, Dad. I need someone who shows up. He looked down, his jaw tight. You're saying you'll let me back in? I'm saying you'll have to earn it. His eyes lifted, meeting mine, watery, uncertain, humbled. What do you want me to do? I thought about it for a moment. The answer wasn't revenge. It wasn't even apology. It was change. Start small, I said. Call instead of texting. Visit without warning me first that you're disappointed. Tell my daughter stories about when I was little, the good ones. Show her the parts of you I used to love. He nodded slowly. And what about you? He asked softly. I smiled. I'll try to let you. That's my part of the deal. He exhaled, the first real breath I'd seen him take all night. Then, quietly, I can do that. Voice shifts, reflective. In that moment, something in me shifted too. I realized forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what someone did. It means releasing what they still hold over you. For years, I had built walls so high even love couldn't find its way in. But sitting there, across from the man who once defined my worth, I felt those walls crack, not crumble, but soften. When he left that morning, he didn't say goodbye the way he used to, with authority and distance. He just said, "See you soon, kiddo." And somehow, that felt like the first honest thing between us in decades. Pause, her tone quiet, almost a whisper. Forgiveness isn't a gift for them. It's the oxygen you finally give yourself after holding your breath for too long. 3 weeks later, the world finally felt normal again. Or maybe it was just new. The monitors were gone, the hospital bed replaced with soft blankets and sunlight spilling through our living room window. My daughter, little Ellie, was back to her usual self, dancing around to her socks, her curls bouncing as she sang off-key to a Disney song. And on Sunday morning, my father came by. No warning, no lecture, just came. He brought a bouquet of white daisies, Grandma June's favorite. Ellie squealed when she saw him, wrapping her tiny arms around his leg before he could even step inside. For a moment, he looked lost, like he wasn't sure if he deserved the hug. But she didn't care about the past. She just saw Grandpa. I watched from the doorway, the smell of pancakes in the air, and something inside me finally settled. The ache that used to live in my chest, that constant, quiet longing, started to fade. After breakfast, while Ellie colored on the floor, my father handed me a small box. Inside was Grandma June's locket, polished, restored, shining like new. I thought you should have this back, he said softly. You've earned it. I smiled, tears catching in my throat. I never lost it, I whispered, opening my palm to reveal the original one, scratched and worn from years of being held through every storm. He laughed, a real laugh this time. And in that sound, something in both of us healed. Voice slows, soft and intimate. Later that night, after Ellie fell asleep, I sat on the porch with a mug of tea. The stars were out, quiet witnesses to every version of the woman I had been. I thought about that night, the voicemail, the panic, the silence, and how somehow, out of all that chaos, something beautiful had begun. Forgiveness didn't erase the past. It just loosened its grip. I traced the edge of the old locket between my fingers, hearing Grandma June's voice in my head one last time. "You have my strength, honey. You just haven't had to use it yet." Pause. Her voice softens into final reflection. I finally knew what she meant. Strength isn't loud. It's the quiet decision to keep loving, even after everything tried to make you stop. Final line, calm, powerful, cinematic. I sent a voicemail asking for help that night, but what I really found was myself.